Hey, how's it going? So, I'm going to talk about 65. And it is a movie that stars Adam Driver. And the funny thing about it is, I had seen ads for it a bunch of times, and they mostly feature Adam Driver, and there really are only two members of the cast that you see on screen anyway, so, well, on the ship anyway, because it's a space story. And hold on, I took some notes. I'm not going to torture you with reading them, but I am going to consult them. So, yeah, when I saw the ads on television or wherever I saw the ads, I thought, well, that looks good, I love a good space story. And the ship was interesting looking. Like, it already looked seriously claustrophobic. And because just like as you're sitting there, everything's so close in on you. And the way they did it, I I thought I was going to be real quick about this, so let me try and do this fast. But I was watching the Screen Binder channel, and they were talking about and there's a bunch of episodes on this, but they were talking about the way that Alien was filmed and the way that the set of the ship, the Nostromo, was planned out, was deliberately made to feel like it was closing in on you, to feel like it was claustrophobic, among other things. And it's a really good video, actually, if you are into just like film minutia. Or the channel is for more than that, but just you might want to consult it if that kind of thing is interesting to you. It's Screen Binder. If I can find that video, I'll link it in the information box. Okay, so I'd seen the commercials and I thought, okay, that looks good, cool, and then I just kind of forgot about it because the release date was a ways off. And then was it today? Maybe. I guess it was yesterday. Yesterday evening, I was just looking around for something to watch and came across it, and it was on Netflix. And on Netflix, when you open the app, it'll have just like a home screen, and what it does is whatever the featured show or movie is at the moment will be top of this sort of screen show, slideshow type thing, and 65 was on top. And so it started to play, and it's almost like you get to see a trailer, and if you don't scroll or click on it, it'll just start playing the selection. So I was watching that, and I hadn't decided if I was going to watch it or not, and I just was sort of putting together like, oh, this is that movie from the commercial. And the reason why I was confused was because I barely remember seeing the name in the commercial. Like, they must have said something about it. But the reason why I went ahead and chose to watch it this evening, among other things, was the title 65 was real big right up front. So there was no, oh, there's that movie. Like, okay, that is the title. And that appealed to me because in numerology, 65 breaks down to 11. And 11 is a master number, and it has a whole bunch of facets, and it is like one of my favorite things. So whenever I run across it, wherever, it is so fun to play the game with it, where you just see it. And well, anyway, I play a game with the numbers. It's fun. So yeah, I like the number, and I was like, okay, I will watch it. And I have to admit, I had not seen a lot of Adam Driver's work, and it was deliberate, and I'll tell you why. It's really dumb, but I'll tell you anyway. I was like really mad at him for Kylo Ren killing Han Solo. Like, I know Han Solo had to go eventually, either like just actor wise or character wise. He was lucky he'd been alive as long as he had, considering the life he apparently led. He dodged a lot of uh, laser bolts. So, yeah, and I have this thing. I get all tuned into something, and it's kind of hard to dislodge what I feel for it from the fictional reality to actual reality. But I did know that, he's an actor playing a role, and it's not his fault. He just showed up to do the work. Somebody else wrote that shit. I'm kidding. I knew Han Solo had to die eventually, but I just didn't want, I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it went. Excuse me. Other people have lots of problems with Star Wars. I get to have one once. So, that's my dumb reason. And then also, I never watched Girls, there was something that came out, I think, a couple of years ago that was like something about marriage, and I was like, that does not interest me. So, excuse me. Pardon me. Allergies, having problems today. Lovely, I know. Anyway, what the hell was I saying? Something not about the movie, I don't think. Why don't I get back to that, and if whatever I was saying was important, it'll come up again. Anyway, oh, right. I haven't watched his work in the marriage thing yet. Okay, so, but I didn't, that happens. Sometimes people I totally like put something out, and I'm just like, wow, I have no interest in that. I may watch it with the sound off or something if I really want to sit there and look at some actor, but that's more work than it sounds like, right? So, yeah, there are times where I'll just take a pass on stuff because it just doesn't interest me. But I figured he has to be good, and then I did see him on SNL, and I mean, it kind of took him a while to get into the groove of doing the live improv thing, but I bet that's a lot harder than it looks too. If you if you just think about like what they have to do between skits or whatever you want to call them, sketches, and the commercial breaks, and just think it has to be mapped out, planned out, timed, and the actor, you better do your part when you're there, because everybody else is like, you look bad on stage and backstage if you're not holding up your end. So it did take him like a good portion of the show to kind of get his feel for the rhythm, but he finally got it. It wasn't like totally terrible. I've seen way worse guests on there than what he did, and I have read a lot of interviews of his and seen interviews, and I know that, or at least I get the feeling that there's always, and well, this is so unusual in an actor or anyone, but there's a level of insecurity about whatever about himself and what he's doing, and it is not easy, I don't think, to do that. I mean, I almost pursued acting myself, and I did some extra work, but that's not the same as trying to get in front of the camera and get in a line. A lot of the time I got those jobs and ran off and hid somewhere and just came back when I knew food was happening and when I knew like the production day was ended and I could go pick up my check. I know, I'm terrible. So, but I did think about it, and then I totally like wimped out in junior high school because I was just like, I didn't want to face the. I already had, for some reason, man, like I was the whipping boy in junior high school. I don't know what the problem was, but I just thought, you know, this is really going to be sticking my neck out and asking for more of this. Do I really want to do this? And Mean Girls are a real thing. Like, I am not kidding. That movie is, it may be a comedy, but that is not a joke. So, yeah, I was intimidated and backed down, but I did get my performance bug sort of out of my system. Well, look at where I am now. I still got it, but I did bands instead. So, but or like being a comedian, listen to most of them. They'll tell you their at the beginning. They'll tell you their life story and what kind of humiliating thing finally pushed them to do talk therapy with strangers on stage, which is not that far from what I'm doing. So, but here I don't have like a live audience, and I don't even have an assured audience, so I can be really, you know, I don't have to care that much, I guess, about the eventual outcome, because once I'm done with it, if I watch the playback and I'm happy with it, then I'm gonna forget most of what I just said in the video. Like, that's okay, it's on digital recorded format and I don't have to think about it anymore. But anyway, back to the movie. So I knew I was gonna get a decent performance from Adam Driver, and it was just like my own dumb stuff, or, you know, choices that I hadn't watched more of his work. And so I wasn't disappointed at all. Like, I expected him to do as well as he did. And I liked it because it was a really spare production. Like, they did keep the cast was really small. And then, like, the main action was just two people, you know, and then just dealing with, well, an uncharted, like, everything just kind of goes sort of bad, you know. The reason why the pilot, who's the main star, Mills, leaves home is because he's got a sick family member and he wants to go and get, you know, the funding for treatment. And it kind of made me sad that in the future, when you're piloting a ship and it's your job, and the ship is a cargo ship and the cargo is frozen colonists or sleeping or whatever the, you know, procedure was that had them knocked out for the trip. And that's your job. You might as well be driving trash or shoes. At least that's the way it kind of came across, until things started to go wrong and he basically lost almost all of the cargo. And then that part that he did lose was one person, and the other cast member, main cast member. So, I mean, that takes a lot of people work out of the whole equation. But, you know, then they could concentrate it on the story. So you have these two people, they're way far from home. This guy, like I was starting to say, took on this job because he wanted to be able to come back and take care of his kid, basically, because she was ill. And his kid is like everything. He definitely has a wife that he's in love with, but the kid is like his friend. They are, you can tell that they're just really close, and you know, that's their relationship. And so he doesn't want to leave, but he wants to be able to do the best right thing. And even though his wife is like, you know, just hang out here and we'll figure it out, or, you know, like, having seen it, even though the wife, she didn't say it, I don't think, but she was imploring him to stay with the kid, because I feel like she's pretty ill and you would want to spend like all of the time with her that you could. And this dude's taking a trip that's going to take him away for 2 years. And so the mom's not being a nag or a bitch about it. She's just kind of like, you know, just registering her sort of mild disapproval, or maybe it wasn't so mild, but he just chose to bowl on ahead with his plan. And you know, at first the kid is, oh, here, let me just remind you, there will be spoilers. So, you know, at first the kid is like gung-ho for it because of the whole adventure of what he's doing. And I don't know if she was really aware that he was going specifically to get paid for something to treat her condition. And so I think that at some point she just starts to miss him, and it becomes worse because her condition is degenerative, and the longer she has it, the less time she has. And so, and the worse off she is. And I think that, you know, I was talking about their relationship, where they have this closeness, this connection, and I believe that, oh, let me restate that because that came out sounding like a question. I believe that distance is not a factor when we are thinking of someone and sending them a message. And apparently they're going to get it when you send it, whether they want to or not. Like, you have sent it and it is going to arrive. And I was surprised to learn that, because it seems like you could kick in your free will and like kind of filter things, but apparently not. And so, and that's weird to me, because I either no one's sending me stuff, or I'm just filtering stuff out, or I'm just not aware of it, because that could be the case too. But it would be immediate, like no matter where you were, like say on Earth, like what distance apart you were, it would be like as immediate as a telegraph would, I faster, but in the same kind of way, I suppose. And I think she started to get sicker, and it made her start to realize that she wanted her daddy, and she was getting upset with him for not being there. And you know how kids are, they can just sort of be real loose with the rationale and forget, like, that you were the cheerleader, and then now you're going to turn around and you're feeling bad, so you're letting him know, but it's also making him feel terrible. And he was probably either realizing it from her feeling it. I know I'm probably giving this story like way more texture than it had, but just bear with me. So anyway, he really, you know, it comes down like, oh my God, my wife was telling me not to go. My kid is now, I miss her so much, and she's going down, and I can't get there fast enough. And then the ship got hit with space rocks and then fell on the ground and broke. And now it's just a big mess. You know, and then so, because there's times where you can see he's like breaking down a little bit, and that's got to be what it all is, you know. So it's just, there's the level of suspense, and it's like gets you in the gut. It's not just like action suspense. It's like, holy crap, dude, what did you do to yourself? And then, you know, first for a while he's thinking, oh my God, everyone's dead, but he finds out everyone isn't. And to complicate matters more, the person that survives doesn't speak the same language, and it's more poignant, I guess, for the viewer, definitely, but I would think painful for Mills, the ship's pilot, that it's a little girl, and it would just, you know, be a gut punch every time you looked at her or heard her voice. And you certainly see elements of like, oh, it affecting him. And and then it affected me in a good way. And so they have to go on like an extended bit of travel on this place where they're at, and it's inaccessible. Pretty much nobody knows where they are, and they can't communicate from where they are to where they came from. They can't do it. They have to get up off of the planet to do that. So of course they got to go through a bunch of stuff to get to the part of the ship that still can get them off the planet. And it's like a pretty good action-packed little sequence, thrills and chills, and roller coaster definitely. And the thing I really liked about it was, or another thing I really liked about it was that the pace. It moved fast. It said what it had to say about a subject and then moved on to the next part. I mean, it's something biting me now. I just saw something fly by. Okay, well, anyway, it was short and sweet. Or I guess it was, I think it was a little bit longer than 90 minutes, slightly, but it didn't feel like it. It felt like an hour, which is, if the time passes so fast that you lose time, I'd say that's a pretty good endorsement for your show or movie. You get so into it, you don't even notice what time, what? So, I pretty much have almost told you the whole story. I'm just, there's something I want to add that actually is beyond the story. I don't know, I guess I covered all of this. Okay, well, I'm almost done then. So what I wanted to say finally was that were the story to go forward beyond the ending, I would think that these two people began to understand each other and lose their fear and resentment of each other, and then of having to interact with each other, and then having it be so difficult that they don't speak the same language. But luckily one of them's a child, and she's smart, and she can absorb, like, a child can learn a language way faster than an adult. So she learns to communicate with Mills, and he is preoccupied with, like, what's going on at home, what happened here, then, like, his hand in it, and it wasn't any of his fault. It was an accident. It's just unfortunate that Galactic AAA can't get to him fast enough. So they warily come together. Like, it takes some danger, and it takes some things have to happen that make them care about each other enough to, well, the pilot's already taken that on contractually, but there's nobody looking. He doesn't have to be a stand-up guy. He could just let the passenger die, but, well, she wasn't dying. He would have had to kill her, so that's not good. But all that aside, they went through a lot to meet each other in a middle, and to care enough to get each other out of a couple of almost deadly scrapes. So I mean, it's like they realized, like, wait, we don't have time to be resenting each other, and we don't even really have time to mourn. We have to, like, pay attention to the other. Neither of us is going to make it without the other, was my conclusion. So after the movie ends, I think his plan was to get her home so that he could get her on track to getting back to some family. But my thought was, what if the reason her family was on that ship in the first place to go colonize somewhere else was because home was no longer viable? Like maybe if there were even people at home, they would be too old and poor to send for the child to come home or to go pick her up, and maybe they weren't like in a position, they wouldn't be in a position to take on another person, like just literally wouldn't be able to afford it. It could be something like that, to where it would end up with the girl being placed back, like where they'd come back, like Earth, I guess. And it would just be a good story if he and his family would end up with this girl, and she wouldn't replace the one they lost, but they would be helping her because she would have no family, and then she would help them heal from the loss of their own child. So I don't know if there's a sequel in the works, but I could see one. Anyway, I will include all of the cast's names when I get to the processing part of uploading this. Thank you and good night. Oh, it was good. I liked it. You should see it.